People who stay silent in a group while the air around them melts from empty words, social noise, and cheap alcohol. In a world where every second person is eager to dump the details of their breakfast, childhood traumas, or geopolitical opinions within the first 5 minutes of meeting, these characters are literal black holes. They sit in the corner of a bar, on the edge of an office sofa, or at a dinner table, slowly stirring their drink, and they just watch. You think they're shy? You think they're timid, uncomfortable, or perhaps just too dim-witted to have anything to say? A monumental mistake. This isn't modesty or cognitive deficiency. It is a cold, methodical audit of your weaknesses. While you waste calories, precious dopamine, and the remnants of your self-respect on verbal garbage trying to make an impression, their brain is operating in passive radar mode. They record everything, your micro-expressions, Freudian slips, the fake notes in your laughter, and the way your fingers betray you by trembling when the conversation accidentally drifts toward money, mortgages, or exes. This is the pure mechanics of the profitability of silence. They consume information without giving absolutely anything in return, turning your existential desire to be heard into their primary and most liquid asset. From a neurobiological standpoint, your chatter is the cheapest way to get a quick high. A person speaks, receives a microdose of social approval, and for a moment feels alive, significant, existing. People who stay silent have chosen a fundamentally different strategy: the amortization of personality through total, almost pathological observation. They conserve cognitive resources, allowing you to voluntarily and enthusiastically surrender all your passwords, locations, and vulnerabilities. They watch the predatory way you check your phone every 30 seconds, the desperate search for validation in your eyes, and the precise moment your social mask begins to crack under the weight of your own lies. They are the investors in your emotional bankruptcy, quietly waiting for you to overdraw your social account until you have nothing left but desperate, unfiltered honesty. The silent ones are the apex predators of the information age. While the rest of the world is engaged in a race to the bottom of the attention span, these individuals are practicing high-level cognitive arbitrage. They wait for you to exhaust your supply of secrets, watching as you peel back the layers of your identity just to fill a 3-second gap in the conversation. They recognize that in modern society, the person who speaks first is the person who loses. By providing no feedback, no nods of agreement, and no counter-narratives, they force you into a state of conversational overextension. You start explaining yourself, justifying your existence, and eventually admitting things you'll regret by sunrise. All because the silence they project is too heavy for your fragile ego to bear. They weaponize the vacuum of the room, letting the awkwardness do the heavy lifting of extraction. In a world where attention is the new oil and personal data is hard currency, they represent high-tech refineries operating in absolute stealth mode. They know the true price of every awkward pause you frantically try to fill with another flat joke or a meaningless Wikipedia fact. Every second of your panic-driven monologue is a deposit into their memory bank. They aren't just listening to what you say, they are analyzing what you don't say, mapping the negative space of your personality. They find the holes in your logic, the gaps in your confidence, and the hidden fears that you try to bury under layers of loud, performative enthusiasm. They are the architects of a new kind of social leverage, built entirely on the debris of your indiscretion. They are mapping the fault lines of your character, waiting for the inevitable tectonic shift that will bring your facade crumbling down. Look at it from an economic perspective. Your need to be an active member of society is worth about $40 to $60 a month in profit to advertising corporations through targeting and data collection algorithms. But for this silent observer sitting across from you, you are worth much more. You are their free, endless source of raw data for manipulation or social positioning. The attention economy industry hates these quiet ones. Their silence is a system error, a bug in the consumption matrix. A person who does not broadcast their desires, fears, and preferences outward becomes invisible to marketing radars. They don't buy the social product called approval. They don't pay for it with their sincerity or anger. They are the only kind of people whose profitability or fear of the world is paradoxically higher than the desire to be bought or recognized. They are the non-participants in the global auction of the soul, effectively shorting the market of human interaction. This is the era of social parasitism, where the loud are harvested by the quiet. These observers are essentially data vampires, feeding on the narcissistic spillover of the digital generation. They understand that transparency is a trap. While you post your location, your relationship status, and your mental health struggles for the world to see, they remain an enigma, a blank slate upon which you project your own insecurities. They use your openness against you, creating a psychological asymmetry where they know your every move, but you don't even know their middle name. This is not just a social quirk. It is a tactical advantage in a world that has turned human connection into a zero-sum game of influence. They cultivate an aura of mystery not out of depth, but as a deliberate shield against the very scrutiny they inflict upon others. While you amortize your intellect, turning it into a transit zone for others' thoughts and sounds, they preserve their energy. This is a true industry of amnesia. You forget what you said 5 minutes ago in a fit of drunken candor, but they file it away in their internal registry. Your depression, your anger, your insecurity, all of these are commodities in their internal market. They understand that information is most valuable when it is asymmetric. By keeping their mouths shut, they maintain a monopoly on their own internal state, while you engage in a frantic, loss-making fire sale of your private thoughts. They are the investors in your emotional inflation, waiting for the moment when your social credit crashes so they can buy up the remains for pennies on the dollar. They are the vultures of the conversation, circling the dying embers of your dignity. The consequences of this social role distribution in the long run are a true intellectual horror that we are already beginning to observe in the architecture of our concrete boxes and office open spaces. In 10 to 20 years, we will finally solidify the caste division of society into talking heads and silent curators. The former will turn into endless noise, into a biomass on which neural networks learn to mimic human reactions and emotions. They will scream into the abyss, not noticing that no one is listening except the algorithms designed to harvest their screams for ad revenue. They will live in a state of permanent transparency, their lives broadcasted, indexed, and sold before they even have a chance to experience them. They will be the content, but never the creators, the fuel for a machine they don't understand. The latter will become those who configure these algorithms, who own silence as a tool of power. They will be the ghosts in the machine, the invisible hands that steer the loud and the desperate. Our cities will turn into concrete incubators where constant noise, music from speakers, and intrusive advertising will become a marker of low social status, a sign of marginality, and an inability to control one's environment. The elite of the future are not those with the most followers, but those who possess the exclusive right to be offline, to have privacy, and above all, to have silence. Silence will become the most expensive commodity, a luxury item inaccessible to the inhabitants of suburban bedroom communities, where the walls are thin and the Wi-Fi is mandatory. Privacy will be the ultimate status symbol, more coveted than gold or status. We are witnessing the death of the private self and the rise of the monitored self. Those who cannot stop talking are effectively building their own digital cages, brick by voluntary brick. The silent ones, meanwhile, are the ones holding the blueprints. They navigate the social landscape like ghosts in a graveyard, watching the living bury themselves under mountains of useless data. They see how your authenticity is just another marketing gimmick, how your radical honesty is actually a cry for help from a soul that can't stand its own company. They are the ultimate pragmatists in a world of performative madness, realizing that in a room full of sirens, the one who doesn't sing is the one who survives the wreck. And while you frantically try to fill the vacuum in a conversation, while you fear silence more than radiation, remember, the person sitting silently across from you has already calculated the exact point of your next nervous breakdown. They know when you will crack because you told them yourself while trying to seem like an interesting conversationalist. They see the exhaustion behind your smile and the resentment simmering beneath your politeness. They are the ultimate psychologist of the gutter, extracting meaning from the trash you throw out during your social interactions. They analyze the frequency of your sighs, the speed at which you finish your drink, and the way you avoid eye contact when certain names are mentioned. They are constructing a psychological profile of you that is more accurate than your own self-reflection. When you return to your identical apartments, you will forget about them in a minute, flushing the evening down the toilet along with the remnants of the alcohol. But they will remember every word of yours, every intonation, and every gesture, because in their world, information has no expiration date. They will use your stories as cautionary tales or as ammunition for later, while you remain blissfully unaware of the vacuum you just fed. These are people whose faces in the cold light of night storefronts and monitors look like perfectly smooth, blank white voids, devoid of familiar human features. They have erased their individuality for one great purpose: to become a perfect, icy mirror for your own boundless vanity. They have become the ultimate camouflage, blending into the shadows of the room until they are nothing but a pair of eyes reflecting your own desperate need for attention. In the end, the silence isn't just their shield, it's their weapon. It is the vacuum that sucks the truth out of you, leaving you hollow and overexposed. And in that mirror, you will never see yourself, only the emptiness you are so desperately trying to talk away. The vast, echoing silence that you have traded for the privilege of being noticed by someone who doesn't even care if you exist. You are screaming for a ghost to look at you, while the ghost is busy taking notes on how to replace you with a more efficient, less noisy version of yourself. You are the product being demoed in real time, and the verdict is already in. Welcome to the future. A loud, bright, transparent cage, watched over by the faceless elite of the quiet, who will eventually inherit the earth simply because they were the only ones who knew when to stop talking.